Hey everybody, it's Mark, Dr. Deadwax, and we're back for day 44 of the Inbox Challenge. Today's numbers were picked by Chris4127 Basket. Bonjour mon ami, merci beaucoup pour la sélection de les numéros de 7 jours. Man, that is just terrible, but I know I made somebody in Australia wet himself. Chris, thanks for picking the numbers. Chris picked 4 numbers, and we're going to do all 4 records. And there's not a lot of interesting dead wax today, unfortunately. But I actually think, Chris, you might actually like all of these records, so that's kind of funny. The first one is Warren Zevon, Bad Luck Streak and Dancing's Cool. This is a first Canadian pressing. It is on the Asylum label. This is when they were using the TARDIS logo. So this is Warren's, I think it's his 3rd or 4th record, 1980. I don't know what to say about it. I love Warren Zevon. I think the man was a genius. I think he's grossly underrated as a songwriter, maybe even as a performer too, but I think comes with an inner. I think he's the kind of guy whose songs 100 years from now will still be performed by people, even though, and they'll be like the standards of the day in the future. There's some good songs on here. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a dog, but this just doesn't compare to his first or his second album or some of the records that came after this. But this is a pretty good record. Excuse me, and as always, just a hell of a. This guy, everybody loved this guy. In the music industry, everybody wanted to be with him. I think everybody wanted him to be much more successful than he was commercially. He lived with Buckingham Nicks for a while before they were in Fleetwood Mac, and he was good friends with Jackson Browne. And Jackson Browne produced his first record, and he remained friends with Jackson Browne throughout the years. He had a huge problem with alcohol and drugs that he had troubles with a few times, and he wrote about those experiences a lot. But I mean, just the players on this record: David Lindley, Rick Marotta, Waddy Wachtel, Don Felder, Jackson Browne, Joe Walsh, anybody else that strikes me? Springsteen's on here somewhere. Anyway, so and not his best record, but still contains typical Warren Zevon songs. Some of them are humorous, some of them are humorously political, some of them are very dark. Kind of personal historical tales, that kind of singer-songwriter LA school where there are stories about people and histories and life and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're a completionist of Warren Zevon, I recommend this. If not, I would say find his first record, find Excitable Boy, and I can't remember the name of the one after this, but find that one too. Standard Canadian pressing. Like I said, 2/8 dead wax. Next is Jackie McLean, Action, Action, Action on Blue Note. And this is on a Blue Note Liberty label. Now this is not the standard Blue Note Liberty. This is the interesting Liberty label. It says Liberty United Artists Inc. in the bottom. And this has Van Gelder stamped in the dead wax. Where the hell is it? Maybe I can show it. So there it is. It's between 12 and 1 o'clock. Upside down, Van Gelder. So now this label, I see different labelographies. Some say that when the Liberty started making Blue Notes, they went with this label first, and then they went back to the standard Blue Note label with Liberty, and some say that order is reversed, and it went the other this, then the United Artists label, then the standard United Artists label, then the blue, solid blue, black and white Beast. So this is just, I mean, this is Jackie McLean's Action, Action, Action. I could just hold this up for the next minute, because I really don't need to say shit about it, because you should just listen to this. This is just a classic record. Charles Tolliver on trumpet, Jackie McLean alto sax, Bobby Hutcherson, who I talked about yesterday, on vibes. Again, playing vibes I don't mind listening to. Cecil McBee bass, and Billy Higgins drums. And this is we're going hard bop, post bop free here. We're not totally free yet, but we are really pushing, but still remaining musical. This is a fantastic record. I just love this record. So happy to have found this. The Warren Zevon was a bucket of show. This was $7 in a store, and I was just so happy to find this. This is the kind of Blue Note records I never see. Is these any of the mid '60s? I think this is '64. Any of the mid '60s kind of hard bop, moving into the free realm, that post bop free, when things are really starting to loosen up on Blue Note. Those are really, really hard for me to find. You know, the stuff by Ornette Coleman and stuff like that. But not that this is quite like those, but this is still really good. Action is a fantastic song, and he does a good cover of I Hear a Rhapsody. A Hoot Nan might be the most standard, typical piece on the record, but I can't recommend this enough. And next, and I'm sure you like that, Chris. Next is Philip Glass, the photographer, and this is a promotional copy. I don't know if that's going to show. Yeah, it does. So that's stamped on both sides there. So this is kind of like an opera that was written by Philip Glass about Edward Muybridge, whatever. And it's kind of about this here. There was a gentleman in California who had this idea that when horses run, they lift all 4 feet off the ground. And he had a bet with somebody, and he wanted Edward Muybridge, who was a photographer, to prove this. And they didn't have most pictures at the time. He was a photographer, and he came up with this system to photograph a running horse with a rider using a series of 50 cameras that were activated by tripwires. And eventually he did prove that when a horse runs, all 4 of its feet come off of the ground, and the guy won his bet. But also about this person, this photographer, this Edward Muybridge, he killed his wife's lover when he found letters from him to her. And he was tried for it and was let go. And he was, I think, the last person in California not to be sentenced for murdering somebody for that crime. And it comes with a little tip in that shows some of the production of the opera as it was performed, and some backstory. And this is pretty typical Philip Glass. I like Philip Glass. I like the kind of avant school of classical music that he and Reich and some of the others represent. And that is on Canadian CBS FM label. 2HZ and the Deadwax's 1A stampers. Nothing special. I love this kind of stuff. I can't recommend this kind of stuff enough. It's not accessible to a lot of people. Some people find it repetitive and monotonous. I find it kind of engrossing and hypnotic and rhythmic. And this just kind of has this kind of rhythmic to it that reminds me of the horse. And anyway, and that was a buck from a dollar bin at a show. How the hell's that stuff in a dollar bin? And last is Yazoo for people in the rest of the world. And this is Upstairs at Eric's, and it contains the hit Situation. And look, somebody excitedly wrote that this was a USA import for $12. Holy shit. Who in Canada was all hot and bothered about a US import? I remember when this record came out. So this is Vince Clarke, who was formerly in Depeche Mode, and Alison Moyet, who was a singer that he teamed up with. They released 2 albums. This is the first of the 2 albums, and they had some big hits. And then they split on and went their separate ways. And she had a solo career, and then he teamed up, I believe, with Andy Bell, and did his. But he did a couple other things. But his next huge project was Erasure. So now this had some big hits on it. Don't Go, Situation, Bring Your Love Down, Only You. And this is on a US Sire label. And this has the, I've talked about it before, the, I don't know if this will show, but let's try. There it is. Just about 12 o'clock. Come on, focus. Somebody's just like a sick joke the way it won't focus. 12 o'clock. You can see the Winchester for Winchester, Virginia Capital Pressing Plant. It's that kind of looks like a broom or a wine glass. It's supposed to be a gun, but you can see it there at 12 o'clock. So this was pressed at that Capital plant, and it sounds pretty good actually. So you know, I'm glad somebody bought this because this is technically probably better than a Canadian pressing. And I got this free in a box of records, but a UK pressing of this would sound better. I remember when this record came out, I listened to this all the time. This was, I liked Depeche Mode, Speak It Spell at the time. That was a record I listened to all the time. Kind of, you know, we didn't know what was going to happen when Clarke left them, and then he released this, and Depeche Mode released their stuff, and they managed to go on and still put out interesting and relevant music without him, so that was great. And then this was great. And there's a song on here like I before E, except after C, which is kind of, you know, it's kind of slightly experimental. And some of the stuff on here, it's not just pop music. It's kind of, it was kind of synth pop in 81, 82, was still trying to push some boundaries, especially the British stuff. So it has these kind of repeating motifs and these repeating vocal lines and stuff like that, almost constructed in a way. Reminds me very much of Dazzle Ships by OMD in some ways, that song especially. Winter Kills is another great, dark, simple song. So this is a classic. Total classic. Dollar bin, total classic. People will still be listening to that record for hundreds of years. Thousands, millions, eons. When the sun goes supernova, people will be listening to this. Or else Forever Young by Alphaville. So that's today's records. Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School. It's a good record. You know, it's not his best. Action, 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 Jackie McLean. It's fantastic. Philip Glass, the photographer. Highly interesting. And Yazoo, Upstairs at Eric's. Great record. So, Christoph, those are your numbers for the day. Thank you for picking them. Thank you for playing along. Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, subscribing, heckling, watching me go bald, listening to me rant and rave. Have a great day. Keep the record spinning.